Hey, everybody. Welcome to another GROWL Virtual Connex show. I'm Greg Olson, your host, the founder of GROWL Agency. And more importantly, I'm here with my good friend, Heather Hughes. Hi, Heather.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great.
Great.
So today, we're going to be talking about everything around improv, which some people know I'm pretty always excited to talk about that. So I might just have to put myself on mute to make sure to give you a chance to really run the show today. But we're going to really talking about using improv for team building, for virtual team building in the world we live in now. Some of the things that you and I have been seeing and doing. Maybe you can talk a little bit about or tell us a little bit about a game. Maybe people that are listening, something that they're not going to be engaging with us, but if they were listening, maybe they're listening to this podcast that we are going to have that'll come up in the future, and they won't
Yeah,
see us our beautiful faces. So maybe there's a game we have. How does that sound?
that sounds great.
Great. So first, why don't we learn a little bit about you? Who the heck is Heather Hughes?
Nice question. What a
Yes,
complicated question. Well,
I
probably
know.
not as complicated as I wish. I'm an actor and a director. I'm also a teaching artist and do a ton of public speaking and audition coaching. So, how to put that in a nutshell is that I just really love storytelling and play. And I think that there's so much benefit to both for humans, no matter who they are and what they're doing, how we connect to each other. Certainly, from the dawn of time is through story and sharing. And I think that the sort of power of that is undeniable and can serve anyone anywhere. I currently live in Gunnison, Colorado, which is a very obvious place for an actor
Sure.
to live. Right?
Yeah,
There's
the
tons of
center. It's the
areas.
center of the actor universe.
It really is. Yep, yep. I'm originally from Southern California. I went to school at Western, which was Western State College, but now it's much fancier than that, here in Gunnison, and then was gone for a really long time. I lived in New York City and lived in Denver, lived in mostly major cities from the time I graduated till a few years ago when I got married, and my husband, in a turn of strange weird lifeness, got the job as the director of theater here at
Mm,
Western. And he runs the theater department now, where I went to school and did my undergrad. So that's
wow.
very strange and kind of amazing full circle. We have a 5-year-old daughter, and this is a really nice place to live, especially for two people who have been freelancing and living sort of in strange ways in big cities all over the place for years and years. It's really nice to sort of have our feet grounded
Yeah.
somewhere, but especially somewhere like this. So now we live here, and I'm doing a lot of freelance work kind of all over. And then this exciting opportunity with you and GROWL came up, which is
Yeah.
really
And
fun.
we're excited to be working on this, which we'll get into. So,
Yeah.
how did you get in? So, let's talk about improv. What is
Mhm.
improv for people that might be listening? And, the days when we could actually go to theater, maybe some people saw an improv show, maybe they don't
Yeah.
know. So, maybe you can just describe like what improv is for our listeners. And then we'll get into like how we can use it for team building and things like that. So,
Yeah.
because I think I think when I've asked people, I get five different answers if I ask five different people, right? And that's
Yep.
okay. But I
Oh,
think,
yeah.
how do you see it? And because this is what you've been trained in, and I work side by side with you, and it's really exciting. So, what is it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So improv, we do it every day, all day in our lives. We just don't think about it. It's how we respond to circumstances without planning. Is really what it is. And the art of improv performatively is the most mainstream example is Whose Line Is It Anyway, which was a really
Mm,
great show that's still in syndication, so you can find it certainly out there. But it's an improvised show, so it's games and activities that lead to telling a story, but as opposed to a scripted show like series that we watch on TV or films or television programs, there is no script for improv. So it asks you to be totally in the moment, completely unattached to the process of the ending of getting to the ending, and completely unattached to an ending. So it's making it up as you go. It is, I think, one of the hardest forms of acting and performance because you don't know what's going to happen. But that is also, kind of paradoxically, what's so freeing about it, because you don't know where it's going exactly, and it doesn't have to go in a certain direction, right? We're a very product reliant society. We like a product. We like to know what's going to happen. We like to know what we need to produce to be successful, right? And improv says, sorry, you have to forget all of that. We're going to redefine success. We're going to try all different kinds of things. We're going to make it up as we go, which is going to demand that we're in our most present, creative, teamwork state, because we're totally working together and we're relying on each other to get there. And we're going to make mistakes. And that is not only okay, but that's the best part some of the time. So it's making up a story as you go. When you do it in performance, it's in front of a live audience. And there's a really great 3-series special running. I think it's on HBO or Netflix. It's called Middleditch and Schwartz. And it's 2 guys who come on stage and do a 1-hour improv show. If you want to check out what improv is at its finest, they are masters at it. And things go wrong constantly. And that's the best part, honestly. That's the most fun, is to watch them figure out the formula and figure out the riddle in the moment. So that's what it is. It's unscripted storytelling, acting.
And really, so that gives like really what we deal with in day-to-day life, like you talked about. So there's different, as we've been working with different groups, we're kind of letting the cat out of the bag a little bit with you and I and our little magic show that we're starting to do to help organizations across the country. And we've been lucky enough to do some in-person when we could. Now we're doing virtual. And again, I get more of the tongue-in-cheek corporate side. Why you and I came together, and I spent time in like Bovine Metropolis in Denver and improv shows. And again, it was the scariest thing I've ever done, and the most amazing thing I've ever done all at the same time, is to be working with people side by side with talent like you have, and then how comforting it can be just to be present and be okay with not being okay, which is a challenge for a lot of people. So we're starting to see some of these things. We've kind of coined it these spark programs until we kind of come up just to kind of think. I think it creates a spark in a team, as we work through kind of what we want to keep calling this. But we're seeing what I've heard from people that we've done this with. We're seeing with team cohesion is a huge one, because these virtual teams are hiring people. They haven't seen each other in a long time. They don't have company events anymore, even like holiday parties or things like that. So they have no way to they're on these Zoom calls or team meetings or any of these other platforms every day, and they're just getting worn out and tired. So we're seeing it help with employee retention and engagement. And so what other things are you seeing in this that you're hearing or seeing why people want to do these kind of virtual improv shows, or, engage people like Heather Hughes and Greg Olson to help them? So what other things are you seeing before we kind of get in maybe a game that you can kind of walk us through?
Yeah, great. I think, here we all are sitting down, staring at both ourselves, which is unnerving, and each other. We're not having those interactions that are so integral in every place, but in the workplace, to sparking creativity, those little side conversations that happen in hallways, those things that sort of get us thinking new in different ways. We can't do that right now. We will do that again. This is all temporary. We will get back to that. But for the right now, it can, I think, feel really lonely. I think it can feel really isolating. And then to be asked to produce in the workplace in the same way that you always have been asked to and have been able to, while you're in that vacuum feeling space, I think is a really big ask. And I think something that improv can do, Improv Games, and I should probably clarify, the kind of improv we're talking about is not performative. You do not need to be an actor, and there is no product in this. This is simply an hour, or however long you want to, you would like us to do this with you, of relief, of levity, of reigniting the parts of you that are kind of a little bit holed up right now because we can't do the things we're used to doing and be in relationship with each other in the ways that we are used to. So I feel like there is endless benefit to laughing with each other, to just laughing in general, I think is the biggest relief. I think we underestimate fun and what that does for a human being's spirit and creativity. And I think seeing that in your coworkers and reigniting that in each other and supporting each other as you go through that, these improv games that we use, these games and activities are really meant to loosen us up, get us out of our head, get us out of our own way. The whole basis of improv is based on the phrase yes and, yes, comma, and, which means that if you come in and you say no to something, everything halts, everything stops. So you don't necessarily say the words ever, yes and, in an improv workshop or an improv show, but it's the spirit of yes and. Yes, you said something and I'm going to go with it and we're going to see what happens. Is it going to crash and burn? Maybe, and that will be hilarious. But are we going to try together to get ourselves through and forward? Yes. And I think right now in this moment we're in, trying to be together to get ourselves through and forward with joy, with support, with laughter is not only going to help us emotionally wherever we're at and whatever this experience of this isolation has been for each of us, which is so different individually, but as far as working together, what a great thing to remember that your coworkers are out there, that they're going through something as well. And here we all are to allow ourselves, to give ourselves permission to take a break from the regularly scheduled program and do something that's not only going to remind us of our own creativity and joy, but will, I guarantee, leave us feeling more creative. And then that energy can be taken back to work and reapplied. I think it can really do that.
It is. And I think I like the yes and versus like no, but we hear that a lot in business, like no, but we could do this,
Totally.
Also, it's a great way to meet people. We did this with our team even. And again, GROWL has what, 13, 14 people now. And so it was easy. We learned about the way we guided it and you guided each of us. We learned things about each other. And some of us have worked together for a while. And I think I've also watched you work with managers and maybe very stoic men and women that they don't really maybe talk about certain things. We have a way to kind of like, how do we humanize this more, right? And I think Zoom and all these virtual meetings are become so dehumanizing. I mean, and things like that, like the words, you're on mute, or I can't hear you, or, after a while you get so worn out. And I think we're really helping these teams learn about each other. We're helping managers become better, more focused. So I think people are looking for ways that they can engage their teams, right? Whether it can be boards, that's other things I really found is like, boards can't meet anymore. So how do they get together? How do executive teams, have a little kickoff? And I think this is designed for that. So why can we do a game? Can you and I try something? Is there something that, maybe we can have a little fun and maybe you can get in my head a little bit. I'm always scared when I say that to you, but what do you think? What kind of things can we do right now to make people smile? And maybe if they're listening, they can kind of participate maybe silently.
Yes, totally. Well, if you are by yourself, this is just a good one to do by yourself. It's a brain game. I do these all the time. I do it when I can't sleep because it sort of relaxes me, but I also do it if I'm stuck creatively or trying to think of an idea. Simple word association in your own head. I will go through the alphabet and make myself start with A and name as many, go A to Z. So as many things I would find in the produce section of the grocery store, start with A and go to Z. And it is hard and it gets you out of whatever space you're in. And it sounds really silly, and it is. And that's the point, is that I think, especially for corporate folks, we're often taught that who I am or being silly or laughing, those things aren't part of job. Those things aren't work related. And I think that's that's not true. And I think we are better if we can bring a little bit of that joy and levity into our work. People respond to people, not robots, right? So if we can be human and humanize things, that goes a really long way. So that's one thing you can do by yourself. Okay, so for what we're going to do is that this is called two-person scene. This is person one, and this is person two.
Got it.
Each person only gets, it's 3 lines. We're going to create an entire scene with 3 lines. So you could do this around a topic at work if you were, let me just hold my fingers here. If you were trying to solve a problem about something at work, you could be like, great, we're going to do a 2-person scene. Here are the people. So let's give us a topic, and all we're going to say is the workplace. Person 1 is going to say 1 line. Person 2 is going to answer that. Person 3 will finish the scene, and we will have created an entire scene with these 2 characters. Are you ready, Greg? I'm going to go first.
Yes.
Janet, I was hoping I'd run into you at the copier today. Why, Greg? I think you know. Thank you. That is a dramatic scene starring Greg and Janet. Do you know what happens next? No. Do you want to? You do.
Probably, yes.
You do. I think you do. You're interested now. Yeah. Okay, your turn. Your turn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, how you doing? Here we go. Okay.
We're doing a whole new.
Yeah,
scene.
Brand new. Greg and Janet, not about, or if you're inspired, Greg and Janet, you know?
I like Greg and Janet. Okay.
Great.
Janet, I really wanted to talk to you about the things you left in the fridge. Oh, is it the green stuff? No, it's the purple stuff.
You have created a cliffhanger because what is the purple stuff? You have created drama. That is a whole scene right there. You could write an entire podcast or, you know, online series and you'll be famous.
Feel free, Hollywood, to take the Janet and Greg and characters and build on that for an upcoming movie or maybe a Hulu episode. I see it on Hulu.
I think a Hulu episode. Yeah, I think it's really important.
Yeah.
But see what happens. So it's just good. That's a really simple thing. And the reason I did a really simple thing was because I'm putting you on the spot. But also, we get really caught up suddenly. What happens to some people in these moments is like, oh my God, I'm going to do it wrong. And the thing that drew me to acting when I was a tiny kid and was terrible at sports and discovered very quickly all the things I was terrible at, the thing that sold me on acting was that it's subjective, which is not a word I knew then, but it's subjective, which means anything goes. You can't do it wrong. You can do things so that the story becomes more clear. And in scripted theater and television and film, that certainly is a director's job to oversee that. But in improv, we want to let all the rules go and be in the moment and see what we can create when we're not attached to an ending. And that is so different from work, right? But I think when we flex those muscles, we trust ourselves in a different way. And then when we return to work, we can do it with a little more sense of self and a little more sense of fun, which will bring in ideas that maybe didn't feel accessible before that.
Yeah, I like this a lot because I feel, and I agree with everything you're saying, which I don't always, but somehow I get around to it and I have to say yes and. So that just means I agree with you all the time because I'm like, yes, and. So I'm sure your husband and you, since you're both like excellent artists, actors and artists, and I'm like, so you have to just be going yes and until you get to an agreement. Love it.
It's great for a marriage, the yes and thing.
Yeah. You can be upset, but you have to say yes and.
Yes and. Yeah, yes and. Totally. I hear you.
Yeah. But I'm right. No, team building. I think it's like what I see is like team building that sparks inspiration and cultural growth. So what I've seen over this last, God, it feels like 8 years we've been dealing with.
I know.
We don't even want to say the word. You and I had a code word for it with pickle, which totally turned into an event with a group we were working with. But it sparks inspiration and cultural growth, meaning teams are struggling or businesses can struggle with who they are as a culture because everybody's dispersed, right? And we struggle with it with some of our dispersed teams and when our team was dispersed for so long that, we really had to work on like, who are we what's that GROWL culture? How do we continue building it? Because it was becoming just a head. Like all people saw was just our head and we had no time that we went and laughed and joked. We didn't go to lunch together, like team members leaving for lunch or coffee or the water cooler. So that's the part that I think what I like is it brings it back and it gets people to know each other again, where they didn't get a chance to be like, oh, I didn't know you liked rock climbing and dog walking. I didn't even think you liked it. You learn about these things through these games and, all these things that we're doing with teams, and every one that we work with has different goals and objectives. And I think that's what's fascinating to me is to see things get tighter together and the people learn about like, oh, I didn't know my manager like to cook or does these things, or, he has a passion for public speaking or whatever they want to learn about each other. I think that's the part that is that how do we inspire and grow that culture? And I think this is the one tool I found that can help do that. Right.
Yeah.
And it's not a lot of heavy lifting. We don't have homework. We don't have, we're not asking them to read a book of the month. We're not asking them to, do anything other than, maybe take an hour, right? I
Yeah,
guess,
just be here now for 1 hour. Yeah.
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 And
No prep. Yeah.
yeah, and again, that's what I find. I mean, you put me on the spot there. I had no idea what you were going to do with your two fingers, right? And
Uh-huh.
that's always like I said, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't. I have no idea. Every time we do this, and you're like, "Hey, Greg, let's do this," and I'm like, "Oh no, what's she going to do to me?" Right? It's
Yeah.
like,
But then
yeah,
you don't have time to worry,
no,
right? And that's the thing is that I'm terribly guilty of it too. If I have too much time on my
yeah,
hands, I will create problems and terror for myself, even with this kind of thing, which is my career, right? Like I do this for a living, but scripted stuff, scripted work, which I love and is so lucky when you get it. But even that, there is a level of stress because when there is a product expected, then there's an expectation of yourself, right? And you're like, it has to look like this to be correct. It has to look like this. And we use the word perfect, which is a word I would like to bomb and never hear again because it's not a real thing. And what does it mean? And all of that it gets in the way of trial and error and all the important parts of creating. And I think that there's something about improv. It's what I go back to when I'm confused about a project. It's what I go back to when I need to free myself up. It's what I go back to when I feel myself getting too critical or getting too worried about things work or not work. There's something about play, structured play, which is what improv is, right? With a group of people that you trust and enjoy or not, right? Because it's a way to sort of get to that too with people. That really it's just incredibly beneficial. It's like taking a really long walk outside for me in terms of
yeah,
clearing my head, making space for productive stuff and getting the stuff that's not serving me out of the way. And it's just fun. If all this psychobabble doesn't appeal to you, it's also just fun. You will laugh a lot. And I think that the health benefit alone of that right now, man, is
yeah,
huge.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we have a lot on mental health too, so we're really driving that with content on GROWL.
So
And I think
great.
this is one of the big things. I think it's mental health awareness. It could be week or day or month. I mean, so we're really focused on that content as more. So I completely agree with you. I think that if you care about employees, which I know people do, um,
Yeah.
you are, this is something that can do to just give them something that positive mental health equals positive everything else. If you go to GROWL agency /mental-health, you'll see a whole bunch of great content. We are not a mental health company, but we care about giving people a different way to think and using improv as a way to solve problems, right? So, and I think I'm excited to be working with you on all this and with other
Oh, thanks.
companies.
Me
And
too.
we'll have you on the show again as we give updates and tips. We have a kind of a website coming out that you and I are going to be on and talking about why this is important and how people can engage this type of exercises. So as we close up, do you have a couple tips that maybe you want to leave people with or something on top of your mind before we end?
Yeah, I think if you're finding yourself for work needing to sit in front of a computer like this for multiple hours, get up. Get up and move around. Schedule that in. Like you're going to hopefully schedule eating and the other things. Make sure that you feel good and healthy. It is, a lot of theater and a lot of performance or the prep for it, right? The warm up looks ridiculous, but it's so beneficial and nobody has to watch you do it. We do a great warm up. We all humans hold a lot of tension right here in our jaw and our neck, which is why if you're finding during this time or any time, for me, it's all the time. My stress lives right here in my shoulders and in my neck. And we want to make sure before we go out and perform that we don't have that so that we're able to project and enunciate and all of that stuff. For anyone though, it's beneficial to loosen up those muscles. And so we do a warm up before. This is everywhere from like community theater to Broadway theater. There's an alphabet warm up that makes you look ridiculous, but feels really good and allows things to move. So if I were you, I would get up, I would shake your hands, I would shake your legs. And then I do a 5 count shakedown. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same with your legs. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, until you get down to 1 and you're one giant shaking body. And then we do the alphabet with a giant mouth. So it looks like this: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, right? And you look silly, but who's watching? Just me right here watching myself, and you're watching me, but nobody will see you in your house. If you can do that, rub your head, rub your chin, rub your neck, rub your shoulders. Get somebody else to do it if there's somebody around. It feels better when somebody else rubs your shoulders. But just loosen yourself up so that when you sit back down, you can feel movement, you can feel blood circulating in your body. That's a huge actor thing. But it's a huge person thing for anybody. And I think most of the things we do as actors applies to almost anybody because they help loosen you up and get you out of your head. I'd also say that if you're feeling stuck in any way creatively and you're by yourself and you don't have anywhere to put it, take a break and then allow yourself to free write like we did when we were in 4th or 5th grade and we had to write a paper and write down every thought you had. And I would use your hand. I would get away from your computer. I would grab a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper. It doesn't matter. Spelling doesn't matter. Nothing matters. What it looks like doesn't matter. And spill your brain onto the paper. And then if you're like, oh, I revealed some things that feel very uncomfortable, you burn that in a ritual fire, and that's fantastic. And that will feel good too. Or you'll see like, whoa, when I let myself not think and just pour it all out, all this great stuff appeared. And then you can bring that back. Those are things you can kind of do by yourself, I think, that are really helpful. Or just put on some really loud music and dance around your house for 4 minutes and then take a breath and get back to work. But you'll feel better. And if you feel good, your work is gonna be better.
I like those exercises, and I think we'll have a recording, little short recordings of you guiding people through that. The shakedown one, I know we've done that with groups, both virtual and in person. I know right away I've watched, we get people standing up, especially those stoic people who are like, I got a lot on my brain, I've got finance, I've got legal, I've got HR issues, and then they come to our meeting and you're right away, we get them engaged and their blood flowing. And I think that I've done that too, like that shakedown thing, and get talking the ABCs before I have to get on a big call. And it just gets my brain in a separate place. It's so weird how it happens without getting into the science of it, but it really does change your mindset from maybe like, I'm worried about this phone call, I might suck at it, I don't want to talk to this person, or I'm nervous. And if you go through those, and it just changes everything about it. So great tips.
Great.
I think I'm excited the next time we have to bring these two characters back, the little, and find out what's happening at the copy machine, what's happening in the fridge, what's the purple stuff. I don't know.
What is the purple stuff?
You
have to tune in to find out.
We'll have to find out. Maybe we have every show we're carrying this forward bit by bit, like on a flip book.
It's probably the name of the company will be the purple stuff. That's probably just better.
We'll come up with something. Yes. We're working on that for the big unveil every month as you and I continue to work together. I have great gratitude for you. I'm glad you're doing that.
Me too.
It's been a lot of fun. It's really great helping people. If anybody wants to know more, you can contact me at GROWL Agency, and we will help you. I'm Greg Olson. This has been.
I'm Heather Hughes.
Yes, Heather Hughes. Thank you. I knew your name. I was just gonna. It wasn't on the screen there. We went away.
There was a pause, and I didn't know if I was supposed to say my own name.
I think we can have it
hanging.
No, that's good. Yeah.
But see, that's improv.
It is. There's no mistake.
I don't know what's supposed to happen.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching today. We'll talk to everybody soon. Thank you for
Thanks, Greg.
being on the GROWL Connex.